leave it as is then. Guys, thank you so much for coming out tonight. This is the Blocko Board Executive Info Session for the 2022-2023 board. We're super excited to have you guys all here tonight. So if you had any friends that said that they weren't going to be able to make it, we're going to actually have this session posted as well later. But we're super excited, all of you guys that were able to get on tonight. So without further ado, we'll jump into it. If you haven't met me before, I serve as the president of Blocko. And let's see. So the question is, you're here, and should you apply? And I bet most of you guys are thinking, yes, I should. And the biggest thing is that you might be here and saying, okay, I want to get a kind of feel for the water. Should I apply this year? And I'm going to encourage you, yes, you should apply this year. And the reason I think this is because of the leadership experience that you get in Blocko is unlike any other. And when you're a part of this organization, you're going to be a part of one of the biggest organizations here on campus. So you're going to get more leadership experience within this organization than you will have the opportunity in many others. With Blocko, as an executive board member, you're able to make a direct impact. So if this is an organization you've come to love, the leadership positions are going to allow you to do that. And then something that I think is super unique with Blocko is that you're able to facilitate community. So one of the biggest things that we do on campus is we bring people that love sports together, and we've fostered a massive community, and I'm sure you've met a lot of friends through here. So within that executive board position, you're going to be able to continue doing that. And embracing that sports passion is huge. Obviously, Blocko built on sports, and you're not going to find somebody that's going to go to more sports than some of your executive board members. Defining campus culture is a huge one. And again, with us being such a massive organization, typically when the university reaches out to different organizations, we're one of the first that come to mind. And that's because we really define what it means to be a Buckeye. And a big one is maintaining spirit and tradition. Obviously, this is one of the cornerstones of what Blocko is built on. And within that executive board position, you're going to be able to uphold those values. So the big thing I like to note here is that don't let inexperience or competition kind of slow you down from taking your shot this year. I ran when I was only a freshman to be football director, and I can say that that was one of the greatest experiences that I could have done. And I don't think if I didn't run at that time that I would have necessarily gone into being football director or even had the opportunity to be president for 2 years. So it's been awesome. And I've seen some really great leaders emerge from little to no experience. So if this is something that you seriously want, definitely take that shot tonight. Okay, so some of the logistical things that we want to get off the back from the get-go is just some important dates to note. And so our applications are going to open up this Friday at 5 p.m. And then they're going to close 2 weeks from then at 5 p.m. as well. And that's also on a Friday. And then the actual elections are going to take place on the weekend of the 19th and 20th. So the times are various based on if you're granted an interview, you'll be given that schedule later on. And so you might ask, okay, now that I know when they open and close, where do I get to these applications? So you're going to be able to find all of these apps at blocko.org/involvement. Okay, so there are 3 just main basic requirements that you have to be able to be eligible to run for an executive board member position. And the first one is that you just have to be a full-time student at Ohio State. So that doesn't matter whether you're a graduate student, undergraduate student, you just have to make sure you're a full-time student with that 12 credit hours per semester. And then a minimum cumulative GPA of 2.0. And this is something that we check, our advisors check. So it's completely confidential, but they will verify that within the process. And then the last thing, hopefully if you're here, you're a Blocko member, but that's also a requirement according to our Constitution as well. Okay, so here's the fun thing. So you're going to put in your application, and then the voting members of the board are going to go through them and basically kind of sift out the great applications and say, yes, we want to give interviews to these folks right here. So you have kind of 2 categories of positions you can apply for. You got the executive director position and the sports directors. So all the executive director positions have a 7.5-minute presentations followed by 7.5 minutes of question and answering. And then on the sports director side, it's 5-minute presentation, 5-minute question and answer. So when we go through these different roles, you're going to see it's going to be outlined. We're going to start with the executive directors, and then we'll have a slide that introduces the sports directors that kind of clear up what position might interest you. And so some of the expectations that we have before you actually give this interview is that you're going to meet with that current board member in the role which you're applying for. So even if this board member is running again, we really, really encourage this because that person has seen the role and they know exactly what to expect, and they can give you a good idea of kind of the in-depth things that you should think about for your presentation. And at first that might seem weird talking to an incumbent director, but it's really not that bad at all. And no incumbent director is going to do anything to kind of make you not do well. We're very adamant about propping others up, and we're very supportive in that. Presentations should be definitely accompanied by a visual aid. So like most people will do PowerPoint. I personally have done Adobe Spark, but I know there's Prezi, a bunch of other different presentation type of things to go with it. I would encourage that everyone tries to present some sort of visionary idea for the role. So typically you'll have kind of the main roles that every director has, and that's great because those are your main obligations. But what we want to see is something where you're going to be set apart because you've got a vision of where you can take that role into the future. And so one thing that you also have to consider is what your committee members are going to do. So everyone besides me as the president has a committee. And so your committee members are an essential part of being able to fulfill your role. And so I'm sure a lot of you are committee members and you know how it feels to be on that end. It's always nice to have things delegated to you and allow you to get more involved into the organization as well. And so as for any presentation, we're really looking for presentations that are unique and very creative because we have to go through a lot of them, and to make yours memorable makes our lives a lot better too. Okay, Logan, this is all you.
What's up, guys? So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Logan Schwartz. I'm our current vice president. I'm also a senior like Nick, and I've been on the board for 3 years. So this is just kind of a general idea. We categorize this. We surveyed our current board members back at the end of the fall semester, just because we want to kind of give you guys an idea of what that looks like going in. So our executive directors, and we'll kind of talk about the split here shortly. But I split everything. So your non-sport commitment, so that's anything that's literally not at a sporting event. So any behind the scenes stuff, meetings with other organizations, meetings with other board members. So our executive directors were spending about 12 hours a week on that, and they were spending 6 hours a week physically at sporting events. And I will put a big asterisk on the executive directors, and you should talk to the position you're running for. It varies a lot position to position, and we saw that. So like membership, for example, is super, super busy during welcome week. And Mackenzie can attest to what welcome week looks like is a lot more than 12 hours. In terms of sports directors, it's a lot more consistent. It gets a little more busy during your season, but in general, their non-sport commitment's about 5 hours a week, and they're spending a little more time at sports. And like I said, same deal here. You'll see that skewed way up. Like right now, it's hockey season, so I know Jen is spending a lot of time at hockey games every week and getting there well before the game. So I'm sure it's more than 7 hours a week right now for her. But that's just a general idea of how much time we're really spending week to week on Block O activities.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. So we're going to go through some of the big do's and don'ts. So for the do section, when you're applying, apply based on passion, right? Because we're going to be able to tell in that interview, and we want people that are going to be motivated throughout the entire year. And if you're not applying based on passion, it's going to show through your presentation. But then even worse, if we elect you, it's going to show later in the year when you're not really prioritizing Block O. Contacting the advisors and current board members. More than anything, we really want to hit on those current board members, but if you are interested, you can absolutely contact our advisors as well. One of the most or easiest advisor to get in contact is Josh Samuel. And for all of these directors, we're going to have a link to where you can find all of their contact information at the end of this presentation. But please use them as a resource. They've seen presentations time and time again, and the folks that are all current board members have given these presentations. So don't hesitate to use them as a resource, and definitely ask, hey, can I see your presentation from last year? Because a lot of people are going to be willing to share that. I don't see why anyone wouldn't be. And it's a really good way to kind of orient yourself. And then embracing that competition. The best thing about these interviews is that when we have really good candidates, it's great because we don't have to worry about the future of Block O, because we know no matter who we're picking from a great bunch of people. So if you're worried about the competition, just know that that's a really good thing for the organization. And if you don't win this time, you're bound to put yourself in the position to win in the future. Being creative and confident, we kind of talked about that. Again, it's part of public speaking. It's a nerve-wracking thing, but as long as you project that, you're going to be very successful and do really well. And then just exhibiting that Go Bucks energy. That's really what this organization is built on. That's what brings us all together. So use that to your advantage. So on to the don'ts section. Definitely don't apply for positions that are just easy grabs. So a lot of times we'll hear of directors that are like, okay, well, what positions are people graduating or not reapplying for? And what those presentations end up being is people will put in kind of minimal effort and they think, okay, well, that person's leaving, so there's not going to be, it's kind of a void. And it really shows. And again, we're going to see right through that. Don't come unprepared. One of the biggest things about these presentations is to make it go seamlessly. And when you go into autopilot, the way to be successful in that is to just practice over and over again. And don't let inexperience really get in your way. Again, we kind of talked about that. And don't worry about, I can't even read that. Hold on. What is it? Can somebody read that for me? I don't have I've got things.
Don't worry about an incumbent.
Yes, thank you. Absolutely. So if somebody is rerunning, I really appreciate it. If somebody is rerunning, don't worry about them rerunning as being a roadblock to your success, because what we find is that sometimes there are people that come in with absolutely beautiful visions, and it has happened in the past and it will definitely happen again in the future, where there is somebody who's passionate and ready to take the reins, and that will happen. So keep that in mind. And then obviously the fun one is don't use the M word. We know that team in that state up north, we don't like them. So keep that out of your presentations as if you would. Okay, so we will jump into the executive directors, and they're each going to introduce themselves and just give you a general rundown.
Hi guys, if you don't already know me, my name is Emily Pesci, and I am currently the treasurer of Block O. I've been the treasurer since my sophomore year, so this is my second year on the board. A little bit about the position. It's pretty much what you would expect of a treasurer role in any org. So you handle all financial matters of Block O, including but not limited to the budget, large purchases, and receiving funds. So it's really important to be like organized and know how you're going to set that budget up and have a plan. Also maintaining and strengthening our sponsorship relations is a really big one. It helps to have multiple forms of revenue for the org to succeed. So having a plan to not only obtain those sponsorships, but maintain those sponsorships. Organize and execute signature and road trip events. So there are big events that Block O throws. And when those big events have a lot of spending to do, the treasurer will usually work with a bunch of different directors to execute these events. So you would want to plan for those as well. And then as a baseline, provide food for major events and football setup. So food's just a big thing for the treasurer because it costs money, so you're kind of in charge of it. So keeping everyone happy and full at events and stuff. If you have any additional questions about running for treasurer, my door is always open and we can meet and talk about it. And yeah, if you like money, that's the role for you.
Okay, hello. I'm Sam and I'm the secretary. And my job is to maintain the office and create the semester's office hours schedule. So with that, you kind of have to be good with Excel. And I also compile the weekly newsletter and any other urgent emails that people need me to send out. Nick would always have me send out the rivalry run emails to everyone. And then I just sent one about office hours this week too. And I also take meeting minutes during weekly executive board meetings and also minutes during any impromptu meetings. So you have to be really good with Word and comfortable with typing really quickly because people can talk really fast. And I also update the calendar on our website with Google Calendar, and I maintain the Blocky points as well as incentives. And just for people running for secretary this year, we kind of want you to have ideas for new ways to track Blocky points in case we decide to quit using the system that we have now. Go Bucks.
Hi everyone, my name is Mackenzie Swartz and I am the current membership director
Director. Like Logan said at the beginning, membership is one of the slightly more intensive positions, especially around Welcome Week, because one of your main responsibilities is in charge of recruitment. You'll be the main recruiting contact, so that means both being at events as well as lots of emails around the beginning of the year time. You maintain the org membership list, so just keeping track of everyone that has joined the org, making sure everyone is paid, getting on that newsletter list, who has football tickets, all of that good stuff. You also plan and execute all of the Welcome Week events. So that of course includes involvement fair, and then usually one other big event just to kind of kick off the year, typically opening night. You also maintain the Blocko tradition for painted kids. So there's a picture up there, obviously. Painted kids at football is huge, but this year we kind of tested it out with some new sports as well. So that's something you can be a part of. And then you lead all of the philanthropy activities. So historically, we've always done flag football tournaments. Also, Buckeye-thon is something you will help be a leader of the team for and try to raise funds for that. But you can also create new philanthropy events, anything to really get Blocko involved with some outside groups and raise some money for them. And then you also are in charge of homecoming week for Blocko. So that is mainly building a float. Throughout that week, you kind of have to plan, what are we going to do and make sure we have everyone there to put out the product we want. So yeah, like everyone has kind of said, if you would like to learn more about membership, definitely feel free to reach out to me and I'd love to talk to you guys about it, and go Bucks.
Hi guys, I'm Emma and I'm this year's program director. So basically, my main role is to serve as like the event coordinator, event planner. So I plan some of these large scale events for Blocko, such as rivalry run, banquet, opening night, Buckeye kickoff, watch party. And then also one of my main roles is organizing social events to kind of engage Blocko, the committee members. And then I also assist in some other administrative tasks, and my role is really dominant with like collaborating with other executive members for sports specific functions. So it's a lot of working with teams and communicating. And if you have any other questions, feel free to contact me. Go Bucks.
Hi guys, I'm Hallie. I'm the marketing director this year, and I'm in charge of anything you basically see within Blocko. So I do all of the socials, also the Instagram, the TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. I manage our website, so everything I've put on there individually. I work with ordering anything you see. So I design and I ordered the general shirts this year. I have made the Blocko volleyball hats are coming soon. And anything else you see that's given away at events is from me. I take pictures and videos on the field, on the court at all the games. And again, like I design everything. So a lot of work, but I love it. It's the best. So with that being said, I work directly with every single person on the board. I had talked to everybody, all sports directors, about ordering stuff, making sure that the website is up to date and anything that needs to be put on there. And I obviously broadcast the amazingness that Blocko is and produce that Go Backs energy. But I said it's a big time commitment, but absolutely worth it. If you love marketing, anything about social media, graphics, photography, this is the place for you. Go Bucks.
What's going on, guys? Thanks for coming out tonight. My name's Lucas. I'm the football director. I'm a junior. It's my first year on the board. So a little bit about my role. I think, first and foremost, it's really important to work with your committee to create a memorable atmosphere in the shoe on Saturdays. And that starts, from Monday at your committee meeting throughout the entire week for a home game. Obviously, a lot of the stuff that we do as a section can't be done single-handedly. So I think it's important to delegate and, put your trust in other people to make everything come together nicely. So I think, that kind of starts with your card stunt design and then into pregame setup and whatnot in the hours leading up to kickoff. And then obviously, one of the favorite things that I was able to do this year is to be on mic in Blocko South. And that's a super fulfilling and, entertaining part of the job. But I'll also say it comes with a lot of responsibility and discipline. And there's a lot of things that kind of can go wrong in the section from rows, 1 to 39. There's a lot that goes on, especially towards those top 10 rows. So just kind of being able to maintain that section and keep the energy up and keep people engaged is super important. And I will say with that excitement also comes a lot of self-embarrassment. Started for me with Buckeye kickoff, huge voice crack on the stadium-wide PA system down on the 50 there. So you got to be able to make a fool of yourself and keep going with it. But that being said, moving on, just to kind of be a little more relevant here, assisting in the planning of big events like Buckeye kickoff with Mackenzie and Emma this year, and then with Emily for road trip. And then overall just commitment to the org, right? I mean, Ohio State football, you're obviously going to get a lot of support and buy-in from the student body, but I think it's important to kind of have, that reciprocal commitment to other people on the board, because we're all a team, all 17 of us. So going to other events, showing your support and whatnot is really important too. But that's about it for me.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maddie. I'm the Nuthouse director. So the number one responsibility is, making sure the Shot Student Center is the best environment it could possibly be, or the worst if you're looking at it from the other team's perspective. Obviously, you'll sit center court and start cheers, but there's a lot more that goes into it. One really big component is working with Fanix, typically Caleb Clark, to design the Nuthouse t-shirt, to plan promotions and giveaways for games. He also helps us do like fat heads, and he takes input for music and like other game day operations. And one thing I will say is you have to kind of be able to, basketball school in the chat, I love it, thank you. You have to be able to kind of deal with rejection. Like for instance, Nuthouse directors for years have asked for Midnight Madness, and athletics is just stubborn. That being said, I think it's worth it to continue to make those big asks, even for just nudging them along a little bit every year. But when working with athletics, like you just can't be afraid to get creative and make that ask, because if you do, you're definitely going to get some of what you want. And then obviously another big part of the role is running Nuthouse committee. We currently have 18 members, so we're pretty big. I have a lot of people on social media. We have an Instagram, Twitter, as well as a brand new TikTok. All of these platforms are super important to ticket sales, marketing, themes, marketing Blocko events, etc. I also have a couple committee members working on Painted Kids. We've never done a cohesive Painted Kids before this year, but it's worked out super well. So definitely looking to continue that. I also have a couple of people helping me with merchandise. And then there's just a lot of other situational roles people step into. And with such a large committee, there's a lot of interest, which is honestly a huge asset. I started working with other board members to plan a 3v3 philanthropy event. It got canceled due to COVID, but definitely worthwhile to think about how you can work with other board members and put on events that can, kind of increase interconnectedness amongst, Blocko as well as the student body in general. And then the last bullet point, if you're running for Nuthouse director, hopefully it already applies to you. Go Bucks.
This is me, right, Nick? I'm gonna take that as a yeah.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Just before I start the general sports director expectations, because it's on the forefront of my mind, because we didn't have a slide for president and vice president. There is a reason for that. The president and vice president have to be voted internally from current board members. So if that's something you're interested in the future, something to think about, if you end up on the executive board this year, 2 years down the line, you could be in me or Nick's shoes. But with that being said, so we're going to go through all the sports directors, but just a couple general things. So the vice president, part of my role is actually overseeing all our sports directors. So what they kind of do, most of them are meeting regularly with the director of operations from their team, as well as fan experience, which is kind of the athletic side of things. They're going to obviously lead their sections on game days. They're going to have a committee. Those are varying in size. I think we have some as small as like 4 or 5. And obviously I think Maddie's, right now is the biggest at 18. And that's really dependent on what the needs of your committee are and what you need to delegate to them. So I used to be the lacrosse director. I never ran our social media because I'm not the type of person you want running a social media account. So I delegated that to committee members. That was like one of the first things I did. And that kind of falls into the section social media. So all our sections have it. You don't need to be the person to run it. You can have someone on your committee do it, or you can do it if that's something you like doing right now. Giveaways are a big thing. And that's in conjunction, like I said, with your director of operations from the team, as well as fan experience. And you have a budget. Each director has a budget that they can facilitate, as well as some other promotions budgets that we can facilitate if you're a director. And then 101 events, that's something that a lot of you probably haven't seen as much of because of COVID. I know we have volleyballs next week. I believe it's Tuesday at 7. Jackie, correct me if I'm wrong. But basically what that is it's I'd like to call it like a meet and greet, essentially, but it's a chance to introduce Blocko members to the sport. Normally the team's there. Lacrosse, I'm biased, Lacrosse 101 is the best 101. But generally it's just a kind of a casual event to kind of get people excited for your season. And there's a lot of ways you can go about that. And I encourage you all to kind of use your creativity in presentations on how you might want your 101 to go, because with COVID, a lot of the, I'll call it historical things we've done are no longer historical. So you can be really creative with how you want those to look going forward. With that in mind, we'll start going through each sport director and let them introduce themselves in their sections.
Yeah, as Logan just talked about me, I'm Jackie Romer. I am the current volleyball director. And so for volleyball director, just kind of like how Logan explained, you're going to be in charge of the student section for both women's and men's. And that's the first thing I'm going to say is it's a fall and springtime commitment. So this is like the only sport. I'm pretty sure that you have both seasons where you are going to be in the section, you have the same amount of time commitment between the two seasons. With that, you're just going to have the loud energy and Cavelli, and you can use your committee to help you with all of that. And also you want to keep in contact with all of your team's contacts. And like this year, our women's team is really good. So I had to work with athletics to get our bus trip to go to Louisville for the Sweet 16. So we were able to do that, and that was super fun. So it's just keeping those contacts with them, with that, and FanX to work on different giveaways. And you come up with your own, like I have bucket hats coming later in the season that you'll see. And yeah, plan and execute the 101. Ours for the men's team is next Tuesday at 6 at Cavelli. So look out for that. It's also in the newsletter. And yeah, go Bucks.
All right, hi everybody. I'm Brady. I'm the current soccer director. So one of the most important things is to create a dynamic game day atmosphere. I have a drum for this section. It's pretty iconic. It's the most fun part of the job. With that, you lead cheers. You can come up with your own cheers. There's a sheet of cheers. And then you maintain a good relationship with the teams. This also goes with the parents. The parents are super nice. They work with you. Manage giveaways, plan events through the season. Like this year, I did like the global engagement night. I did tailgates. So just kind of things to think about as you're going through. And like Emma said, I work with her. We do stuff with the crew. Pretty much it. So go Bucks.
Hey guys, I'm Jen Kaufman. I am the hockey director, otherwise known as the Knuckle Bucks. You guys will notice that obviously for most of the sports sections, it's all pretty similar stuff. But basically you just provide a unique home ice advantage for both men's and women's teams. Just like Jackie said, for volleyball, hockey, we are in charge of both the men's and women's teams. The seasons do overlap. So hopefully there aren't too many games that actually are both home at the same time, but that's where you get to use your committee for. You communicate with the staff and coaches. I've been trying really hard to do that this season and have gotten a lot of positive feedback from that. Get loud and lead cheers. You're in the front of the section, you're starting the cheers. It's kind of your job to keep the stadium loud the entire time. Trying to teach the basic rules of hockey. That's something that I just kind of started this season just to help people understand the sport. So then when they come, they know what's going on. A lot of people say that they want to like hockey, but they don't understand it. So that's kind of an important thing to help spread that knowledge. Then you get to plan giveaways and just overall help the section grow. It's a top sport and it's free admission for students. So just kind of take advantage of that and continue to grow.
Hey guys, I'm Sam. I'm the wrestling director. This is my second year as wrestling director. So all the things Logan talked about, we have to do as sports directors, but some specific like wrestling things, just getting Cavelli loud for all the home matches. Like we had the 2 this weekend against Maryland and Iowa, and just like prepare to like lose your voice after the day after. we work with the coaches and like our team contact, like the director of ops, and like wrestling has a very unique relationship with the team, and like Tom Ryan, the head coach, like we're very close and like can ask for stuff, and like odds are they're going to give it to us. And then wrestling's a weird sport where like if you didn't grow up with it, people don't know about it, like know how it works. So like a big thing is teaching people how the sport works and like the scoring and all that kind of stuff.
Hi, everybody. My name is Josie Stiver, and I'm this year's gymnastics director. So same thing that all the other sports directors talked about, kind of goes for everybody. But for gymnastics, we support the men's and the women's gym teams, and they're both winter sports. One of your main jobs is to plan unique giveaways and promotion items. You're going to maintain a close relationship with the coaching staff. The gym coaches really love students, and they really want a lot of people there, so they're really responsive to us, which is nice. And then also you're going to help educate blockies about gymnastics because not a lot of blockies know about it. So got to be knowledgeable about the sport. Go Bucks.
What's up, guys? I'm Jackson. This is my second year as women's basketball director. And first things first, all of you guys that are running for the board are obviously super dedicated. It's one of the great ways to like show the executive directors that, you know, you're interested in a position and you really care about Blockos. Coming to our game of the week tomorrow at 7 p.m. at the Schottenstein Center against that team up north. Star Wars theme. They're giving out flags. It's going to be an absolute movie when we take down that team up north. But if you're interested in learning for women's basketball, some of the things you're going to be doing is supporting our women's basketball team, you know, throughout their season, going, you know, all the home games and creating that good atmosphere. One of the things we do is we have a preseason 101 event. This year we had it at the Arc, where we were able to play basketball, and two of the players came and we got to talk to them about how they thought the season was going to go. We created giveaways and themes to entice students to come to the games. One of the themes we're doing for tomorrow is a Star Wars theme. We also have a giveaway coming soon of fuzzy socks that one of our committee members came up with. So speaking of committee members, you are going to lead a committee of other dedicated blockies. So we had one of our blockies does just all the social media, so all the graphics you see about women's basketballs from one of our dedicated committee members. Another one, you know, like she comes and like she's here with us right now, me and Brady, like getting everything ready for the game tomorrow. And otherwise, you know, not just in terms of women's basketball, you are part of the Blocko board as a whole. So you get to go to all the other games and collaborate with other executive board members on all the events. And if any of you guys are interested, shoot me a text, give me a call, send me an email, and I'd love to talk to you. Go Bucks.
Hey, everybody. My name is Evan Bilhoft. I'm the lacrosse director. I don't want to beat a dead horse here. Obviously, there's a lot of similarities between the committee leaders here, but I want to talk about something that's really specific for lacrosse. So I guess the big thing that comes to mind right now is sort of location of where lacrosse plays. So right now, we're always in the WAC at the beginning of the season. Then we're going to move to the SHU mid-season. But next season, we're getting our own dedicated lacrosse stadium. So part of being next year's lacrosse director is going to be enticing people to travel a little bit farther to go to these games. It's off campus it's in the West Campus Ag area, a little bit past the Arc, if you know where that is. But also just a big part of it is some of the other people's building a committee to help you. Logan kind of touched on it a bit. I was on his committee. I really love the work he did, and I wanted to kind of give back to Blocko a bit and do it myself. It is a large time commitment. I want to preface that with, I have a lot going on my plate, but it also is very manageable. Blocko, you can do, I don't want to say pick and choose because it's not pick and choose, but when you can go to events, go to events. If you can't make it, as long as you let that director know or the person in charge of that know, they're really understanding to busy schedules. Another big thing for lacrosse is bringing people in. So brainstorming giveaways, cheers, just new ways to entice people to come and enjoy the sport and learn the sport, because it does have a bit of a reputation as a preppy white kid sport. So a lot of the stuff we're doing this year is focusing on like a philanthropic sort of branching out to other people. So that's sort of what I'm working on right now, and I'd love to pass that torch on and carry it on. Lacrosse, I think we have one of the best relationships with the team. You know, Logan's got the head coach's number. I have the director of ops number. We can just send text pretty freely. So that's a really cool part of being the lacrosse director, is that sort of the amicability between the two groups. But from there, otherwise, the great thing about being the director here is there's a lot of creative freedom. You can do what you want with it. And especially post-COVID, we're kind of rebranding it to try and build it up to be the next big sport here. And with that, just go Bucks.
Okay, hi. So my name is Savannah. I am the Block O baseball director this year. I'm a senior. This is my second year on the board. I was baseball director last year as well. So my role is pretty similar to what everyone else has been describing in their individual sports section roles. However, baseball is one of those really weird seasons. We are the last section to start, like our official sport. Our first home game is not until March 22nd. So it's basically like a month and a half sprint of 3 to 4 games a week. So it can be a lot, like once you get into spring semester. So basically, like obviously I just communicate with the teams, coaches, athletics to create the best section possible for our players. Like here's our season schedule. I don't have any cute pictures of our section, so you just get my friends. We support the baseball team at home games in March through April. So we do go until like the end of finals, which I think this year is like May 2nd or 3rd. So we'll go through that. Theme nights and giveaways, teach and promote the game of baseball. Some baseball is kind of self-explanatory, but some people aren't super familiar with it. You do plan the 101 event. Unfortunately, this year was not able to happen because of COVID. And then I run the section social media, I run the Twitter, and then I have 2 committee members who run our Instagram. So like I said, baseball is really a month and a half long sprint. You are going to be at Bill Davis Stadium for, I would say, probably a good 25 hours a week for about a month and a half. So if that's something that sounds fun to you, like you definitely are in for that time commitment, that's great. This is definitely the place for you to be. If you have any questions or are interested in running, please feel free to reach out to me, or you can DM our sections on Instagram or Twitter. Like I would be more than happy to meet with any of you guys if you're interested. So go Bucks.
Shoot, I tried to, sorry about that. Do you guys have any questions? I meant to keep the Q&A session portion up. But this right here is the link that if you're trying to get in contact with any of the directors, you're going to be able to go to go.osu.edu/contact-blocko, and all of our emails are available there, as well as a couple of our advisors. Like I said, Josh is pretty much the most accessible if you're going to reach out to advisors, but we're all accessible for reaching out to the specific positions. And then I know Logan and myself have been pretty accessible as well. But with that, I do want to open it up to questions, and it can be questions for any of us here, anything to do with the process or general questions as well.
Before we open for Q&A, I'm going to answer what's probably going to be the first question. Interviews are on Zoom this year. I don't know if that got said. I may have missed it. But because of the ongoing current stuff, we are on Zoom for interviews this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And the biggest thing with that is that we didn't want to give anybody an advantage or somebody feel like they're at a disadvantage. So if you're doing it behind your computer and you can kind of have notes up to where if somebody were to be inside the room and they would have to have everything memorized, it just kind of evens the playing field and makes all of our applicants kind of stay on a leveled field. So great point. But at this time here, I'm going to stop sharing so I can see some of your lovely faces. And then we are free to open it up for any questions you guys might have. Yusty Sanchez, it looks like you're raising your hand. Go for it, man.
So I do have a question. This is kind of just for anyone on the executive board can answer. As an executive board member, what has been your favorite memory that you made while you were on the board?
Having to share a bed with Nick at retreat.
Oh, cuddle buddies. We love to see it.
Okay, go ahead.
I would say that I think being on the board, you kind of have like 16 built-in best friends. Like there was a certain point last semester where I think I talked to Nick Wade more than I talked to my mom. So you see them probably, it could be like almost 5 times a week sometimes. So you get really close to them and sometimes you seem like it's like your family. So that's been my favorite memory.
Well, Emma stole my line, but I can say that, yeah, I've met like my best friends within this organization, and like you don't have to get involved with it from the get-go. I didn't get involved with it until my sophomore year last year, and now I'm on the board and I've made 16 new best friends, and it's been the best part of my college so far.
I think kind of piggybacking off of what they said, like we also do a spring and a fall retreat. So we basically just spend hours together. And yes, a lot of it is business and meetings and learning about what we're getting ourselves into. But you also learn a lot about the people you're with, and you just get to spend time with them. And then you also get to reflect like everything you've accomplished up until that point. So it's just a cool moment to like kind of like look back together and be like, this is the family and like this is what we did.
You know what
Yeah.
nobody will say? Sorry, I want to tell you what nobody's going to say. Nobody's going to say the 7 a.m. Monday morning exec meetings. But you know what? I love those 7 a.m. Monday morning.
I'll
exec
miss that,
meetings.
Nick.
Thank you. Yeah. See, because you get
Only
to
you
start
and me,
your
though.
Monday. Exactly. You get to start your Monday mornings with such a beautiful group of people. It's amazing. I love it.
Other board members operate on 3 hours sleep for those.
Yeah, I was just gonna say also just like a piece of advice. If you're like a freshman thinking about running, I would totally like say go for it. Like I'm sure Josie and Brady can attest, like being in COVID last year, not knowing what a section even looks like, and the three of us just going for it, I feel like made us a lot closer to, and everyone on the board was so helpful with it, where if you don't think you'll know what you're doing, like go with your heart and go with your passion for the sport, and then everything else will fall in line. And yeah.
I was gonna say kind of one of my favorite memories from being on the board this year, and I'm also mentioning it because he's sitting right beside me, but like I'm on Brady's committee for soccer, and this was his first year being the director, and he didn't get to see a section last year. And when we started off the soccer season, I think he would agree too. I mean, it was god awful. It was absolutely horrible.
I mean, I don't want to go that.
Well, I mean, we didn't have anybody there, but like by the end, like he learned how like he really wanted to like lead the section. Like we learned like as a committee like make it better. And by the end, when we faced like that team up north at the end, and it was a game like we should have never won it all. And like the crowd, there were probably like 150 students there, not more. Like the parents all got us like Beat Michigan T-shirts. It was awesome. Like we won, and no one thought we would win. And it was just really cool to like see Brady kind of do that. And I think that that's an opportunity that a lot of directors will get to have in those non-rep sports to kind of see themselves like grow as a leader. So I think that's really cool to see.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on that. I think it's a really cool opportunity for us to kind of see each other grow and like see all of the little like behind the scenes stuff that everybody does. So it's like, I don't know, I really enjoy kind of seeing the impact that every different exec member has had on different events. Yes, we are a hockey school. Thank you, Maddie.
I would say for me, my favorite part has been the bond that I've built with my committee. I actually met my best friend because she applied for my committee. I'm literally not joking. And then we ended up going to Vegas together for my 21st birthday, like 2 years later. So that is so much fun for me. Of course, not everyone has that experience, but like 5 people on my committee are literally my absolute best friends. And that is just something that like I would not trade for the world. And they literally like came into my life because they were like, I like baseball. So that's really cool.
In the interest of letting more questions go, I hate to cut off our awesome exec members, but are there any other questions? Or if you have oddly specific questions for directors, Nick and I can set up breakout rooms if you really want that. If you have a question, just unmute. Go ahead.
I have one, and like coming from a person that just switched their major, I was just wondering how much time and like dedication per week do you have to devote to Block O? Because like looking at how my schedule is going to be next year, like I would just like to know that before if I were to consider trying out for this.
I can talk on that a little bit because I think I'm the most anal about academics here on the board. So anyway, I think it's pretty manageable if you figure out a way to do it. I'm personally in an honors program for my major. So like my classes ask a lot of me, and it's a lot about time management, but it's definitely something that can be done. Like when I'm making my weekly to-do list, I like write down all my class stuff, and then I also write down my Block O stuff. And it's also like managing yourself and managing like your limitations. So for me in my role as treasurer, like I promised myself that I would only update the budget during my office hours. So then I wasn't just like going back to the budget every time something happened. I was like limiting myself to like only do that during my office hours so I wouldn't go crazy. So like your responsibilities can be standardized and like you can manage that with your time and figure out, hey, this is when I'm gonna do this every week, or hey, I'm gonna put an hour in on Thursdays for Blocko or something like that, so that you can figure out how to balance. And my biggest thing is, as someone who's super nerdy, like we're all full-time students. That comes first above all else. That comes before your outside leadership roles like Blocko. So manage it and make Blocko a priority, but make sure that you're including your other priorities too.
And when you're making your schedule, kind of take Blocko into mind a little bit. Like, for example, like they touched on, we have 7 a.m. exec meetings. So if you can avoid having an 8 a.m. on Mondays, that would really help. You know, kind of if you can avoid having an evening lab, if you're like in a sciencey class, having all your things during the day, because there's usually sports in the evenings, that kind of opens it up for you to be able to attend a lot more things and participate more, just as long as you kind of like be aware of like what your schedule is. Like I've had to miss some meetings because of an 8 a.m. class, but be able to work that when you can also helps a lot.
Also remember, everyone other than the president has a committee. So any of those roles that, you know, the directors went over of their kind of responsibilities, you have a team of people with you at all times that you can reach out to. And even if you need something from another board member, like when I say like all of us work together, like we are all truly there for each other. So you always have people that you can rely on.
I think that is pretty manageable. As someone who, I have 3 jobs outside of Blocko, and they all relate to the sports world. Like, so like sometimes I do have to pick and choose, but I think that it's pretty manageable. Like I can normally make it to 2 to 3 events per week, and like it works out fine. So it's really just kind of time management, and like everyone else said, you do kind of have to prioritize. But it really is like, don't let this org stress you out because it is for people who like sports.
The
And
last
I would
thing,
reach out to this.
You read my mind again. Okay.
I was just gonna
reach
say,
out to the.
Yeah, go ahead.
Emma, go.
Go ahead. Oh, okay. I would just say reach out to the director if you want more specific information, because it does vary like so much from director to director, from admin to admin, from sports director to sports director. So I think if you are really worried about the time commitment, reach out to them and they can give you a more detailed answer.
Other questions?
Thank you, everybody, by the way, for that.
I also am going to jump on that one more answer with that. I think we can all agree that we all put in more time than we probably need to with it. It's pretty easy to get caught up in the different responsibilities and, you know, wanting to perfect everything, and, you know, that just kind of comes with it. So I think he kind of got a different answer from all of us because it's kind of dependent on, you know, week to week. But yeah, just how passionate you are, I guess.
Yeah, we're open to more questions. Any new questions out here?
One thing I would also mention now, just so you're aware ahead of time, because I know it was something that people weren't aware of in the fall, depending on, you know, what position you have, you may be required to be in the shoe 4 hours before on Saturday home games. So if you have commitments on Saturdays during the game time, that might be something you want to talk with that director about, just so you're aware of all the expectations going in.
That's a great point. And historically, that has been kind of a precedent of that setup crew needs a lot of help, and our executive board is kind of the core of the organization. So it's great opportunity to meet new members and get people involved, but also the executive board always knows what they're doing. So no matter who's kind of shuffling in, they've got a great opportunity to help with that.
Maddie, we can't hear you.
Oh my goodness. One second.
We can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. What would you say is the biggest pro and con of being on exec?
I always say you get out of it what you put into it. So yes, it's going to be a lot of time. And I think that's probably one of the biggest cons. And you can very easily stress yourself out with your responsibilities, but also you're getting to be a part of such an amazing org on such a high level. And you get to be, you know, in on decision making and really making Blocko what it is. Also, we're just having a ton of fun. So a lot of pros, some cons to it, but nothing that's not manageable.
I'll probably say the like professional relationships you can make from this organization. I know that if anybody committee wise and exec board wise reached out to me 20 years from now, or if somebody like if there's a list somewhere in the future of old directors and I'm the president of some company and somebody's like, hey, I'm currently the marketing director, like they would instantly like jump my list of like people that I'd be interviewing for a job or something like that. And just LinkedIn connections in general, because I know that's something we all need to worry about. But that's probably a good pro that we don't really think about, but it's definitely something we need to thinking about.
I think that one of the biggest pros is that I am able to walk into the Cavelli, the shot, like the shoe, and go into the student section, and I most likely will know at least one person there. So I know that like for me, like being able to have that was a great escape. So Blocko like served that like as like a good like distraction for me, and like having like a great support system there was like something that really helped me. So I think that's like a really big pro of being on exec, because you know, yeah, NCO, sorry Brady, can't forget that one. But I think that's a big, like it was a big thing to, like for me to like know so many people. And I guess like a con, I think that sometimes like for me, I'm like a very like all in person. So if you like look at like the schedule, sometimes you can see that we have like 7 sporting events in 1 week, and that can be a little overwhelming because like you don't want to disappoint like your friends if like you don't go to their event. So you, and like you also like need to make time for yourself. So sometimes that was a little like hard to like, you know, it's like, oh, I can't disappoint Sam King if I don't go to wrestling, you know, or like can't disappoint Josie if I don't go to gymnastics. So like it's hard because like you do like some like become so close to them that like sometimes it's like hard to like say no, or at least in my opinion.
I also want to say, just at least in my experience, the biggest con is getting up at 6 a.m. for Monday morning exec meetings, but it sets you on a good tone for the week. It just keeps you going. Now you got like a decent sleep schedule, so I can't say that.
I agree with Evan, but then once you get to the meeting, you get to hear about Nick Wade's maple syrup coffee, and then your week is just on the best. You just start on that high note every single Monday.
Yeah, there's nothing like that freezing cold walk to the art pack at like 6:30 a.m. That'll wake you up real fast.
Yeah, one thing I want to mention besides that, and it kind of relates to Hallie's mentioning of professional development. I think you also develop a lot as a person. I can remember when I first started in Blocko and where I've developed throughout the years, just working with a tremendous group of people that are highly qualified at what they're doing, and seeing them grow alongside you is one of the most fulfilling experiences that I've been able to be a part of. So that is a massive pro. And I think the con is really just what's going to end up happening is that you're going to end up loving this organization more and more and more because you're so involved and you've seen all the benefits it's brought to you. The biggest con to that is that you start to see all your time go to Blocko, and you're like, oh crap, sometimes you got to pull yourself back and think to myself, oh yeah, but I've got this obligation, and this obligation. And just managing that and keeping that in check is probably a hard thing when it hits at first.
I can attest to the professional development thing. I remember Nick and I's first meeting when we first got elected to the board as freshmen, I guess 3 years ago now, outside the union, like 3 years ago. So, yeah.
I want to open it up for another question or two. I know we're getting close to 8 o'clock, and I want to let everybody of the executive board go here. And Logan and myself said we'd stay back for any of maybe one-on-one questions or things like that. Anything you need me to go back in the slides for, anything. But I want to open it up for 1 or 2 more questions.
So for the sports directors, what does your off season kind of look like? I mean, I know it's pretty straightforward with your in season, but like what do your obligations and some of the things that you're still doing kind of look like during your off season?
So I just mostly attend all the other sporting events. You don't have to go to the Monday morning exec meetings anymore once you're out of season, but I still go. I still subject myself to that. But I think Lucas can also attest that it's just kind of still being present, still being active. You know, you probably see me at every sporting event. But that's pretty much the majority. And then planning for next year for the next director, all that.
I was just going to piggyback off what Brady said too. I think it's really a good time to kind of enhance that aspect of commitment to being on the executive board and showing your support to other directors' sections. Because at the end of the day, you know, that's what we're all about. We're all here because we love Ohio State sports. And whether that's football, basketball, baseball, lacrosse, whatever it may be, you kind of just want to, you know, show that support to those. They put in a lot of work as well to their craft.
You also have office hours every week too.
I found that it was much easier for me to go to other sporting events when I wasn't in season. Like being in season now, I have not made it to nearly as many other sporting events as I would like to. And, you know, I feel terrible about that and hoping to be able to go to more, but I definitely know that like fall and spring, those are my 2 times to like really get to other sporting events.
And before the season, you want to reach out to your director of ops, the coach. You want to do all that before your season starts, which takes some time beforehand. And like all your planning, you want to plan your giveaways, spend your budget. Just be prepared for when your season starts, that you have everything ready.
Yeah, definitely reach out to the marketing director if you have an idea for a giveaway. That's a process that needs to start minimum 2 months before the date that you want to use it for. So like if Jen wanted to have something for a game in December, we would start talking about it maybe in September, maybe in October, something like that, just so it gives you plenty of time.
Awesome. Let's finish up with one more question, if anybody's got it, and then we will kind of break things off from here.
I actually wanted to say something, if I could, really quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that people, like whether or not you get the position, I think that you should give yourself a pat on the back for applying, for even being here today, just trying to like get more involved and become a leader here on campus. I know for me, like I lost, like I did my presentation and like I lost and like it sucks when like I try so hard and like, you know, like I was pissed off, like I would say that, but like look where I am now. And like I think that like it shouldn't stop like your involvement in Block O, and like you should still try like to still be involved in the organization as best as you can. And I just wanted to say that like no matter what happens, you should still like give yourself props for like all the hard work that you did like in like your application, and even just like reaching out and trying to get more involved here on campus.
That's a great point. And just so you guys know, I do read all of the applications that come through. So sometimes there's a rumor that the applications don't get read, but I know that there's a lot of people on this board that I think are more eager this year to read those applications. So please actually try, because we will be reading them. But yeah, definitely. If you've got any more questions, please stay around. I'm going to dismiss all of the board members so they can go their separate ways. But like I said, if you go to go.osu.edu/contact-blocko, we've got all of our emails there. Please set up a time with all of these wonderful individuals for the roles specifically that you're looking to apply for, and they can give you some great insight on that role specifically. But thank you guys again for coming out tonight. We're super excited to see your applications come in and see the interviews later down the road. Appreciate it, everyone. Go Bucks.